Mostly Movies, where we mostly discuss movies, mostly. I'm Dan Seery, and I'm here to talk about my favorite films of 2025, as well as getting to the Oscar nominees and why there shouldn't be 10 movies nominated for Best Picture. We'll get there. One thing I wanted to bring up, I didn't go over the best films of 2024 because I was a little bit busy last year finishing this book, Lost on a Wave, which is now available on Amazon. Check it out. Lost on a Wave by Daniel Seery. It's a pretty good book. I think it came out all right. Very different from how I started. It started as a screenplay, then it became a series of poems years later, and now it's finally a novel. And I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I'm working on the second book right now, which is not quite a sequel. I'm doing is I'm taking one character from this book and giving them their own story. A very minor character named Dante. I think he only appears in one chapter in this book. But the new book called Sink is all about him. And it takes place quite a few years before this book, and there are some flashbacks to the 80s and 90s. As always, I just can't get out of the 80s and 90s. But my favorite films of 2024, which was a skinny year for movies, I'll admit. So some of the movies on that list should be like, what? Huh? But they're pretty good. Number 10 is Star Trek Unification. This was the short film that was made by fan-made film made by Star Trek fans, and I dug it a lot. I thought it was really good, really respectful. Some of the best Star Trek we've had in decades. 9 was Woman of the Hour. This was the movie on Netflix about a man who was on a game show, was also a serial killer. Very interesting film. It's on Netflix. Check it out. Then I would say I liked Maxine quite a bit. I know it got very mixed reviews. A lot of people didn't like it. But I really liked this movie. I thought it was an interesting close to that very unlikely trilogy of X and Pearl. And this is the third entry in that. Pearl is still the best of the trilogy, but they're all worth watching and they all have their qualities about them. Number 7 would be Late Night with the Devil. Again, this is a movie that got mixed reactions, but I really like this movie. If you're a fan of, cheesy late night TV from the 70s and 80s, you'll definitely get a kick out of it. It's worth seeing. 6, okay, is Terrifier 3. These movies, I'm telling you, they're very funny, they're very shocking and unsettling, but they work in their own way. I know they turn a lot of people off, but I really, really like them, and I thought the third one was really good. Number 5, another one that's dividing fans, but I love it, I don't care, is Alien Romulus. This is one of the best Alien movies we've had in years, and I really got a kick out of it, and, it's definitely worth seeing. Definitely a good entry to the series. Even though it's a little bit like, that's a stretch. But there's a lot of movies I like that are a stretch. In fact, my number 1 movie, which we'll get to, of 2024, is a stretch. Number 3 is Heretic. This is a very interesting, psycho-religious thriller. I thought it was very interesting. The 2 leads, well, of course, Hugh Grant was great, but the 2 women were fantastic in this movie. I think it's Sophie Thatcher. Great job. She's also very good in Companion from this 2025, which was I'm not a fan of, but she was great in it. She's great in everything. Deadpool and Wolverine is my number 2. This is, again, a very unlikely movie, a movie that I never thought we'd see, and I think they pulled off something really entertaining and a lot of fun. Why we need Deadpool movies is that I like Marvel movies. They haven't been on a certain level since Infinity War and Endgame, but I still look forward to them. I still hope, hopefully this one will be better. But why I love Deadpool movies is that it's always been the Mad Magazine parody of the Marvel Universe. And that's why we kind of need those Deadpool movies to stick around. Also, number 1 is The Substance, which was a really interesting movie from 2024. I felt it was my favorite movie of the year. It's definitely not for everybody. It is shocking. It is unsettling. And a lot of gaps in logic that you're like, well, what about this? What about that? How does this work? How does that work? It's not the kind of movie where you can ask those questions. Sort of like Weapons. I like Weapons quite a bit. But if you ask the real logical, hard questions, you're like, come on. All right. So we're going to talk first about, before we get to 2025, we're going to talk about the Oscars and the reason why there's too many nominees. Oh, I didn't do Best Documentary. The Best Documentary of 2024 was, of course, Greatest Night in Pop, about the making of We Are the World. I saw a couple of reissues in 2024, including Escape from New York, Back to the Future, and Muppets Christmas Carol, but by far my favorite viewing was Batman with the New Jersey Symphony at the PAC Center in Newark. Okay, Best Picture nominees for 2025, there's way too many. And I think the Oscars have suffered a lot since they've opened it up to 10 films. Because movies today, let's be honest, are not as good as they were years ago. They're just not. And the fact that you have 10 movies up there means you have even less worthy movies up there, too, that just don't need to be there. You nominate 10 films, here's the deal. 7 have zero chance. And in the days of old, when it was only 5 nominees, between 2 and 3 films had a shot. So, for example, 1997, the big one was Titanic. That was the front runner. And you had L.A. Confidential, that was the second runner-up. And then you had Good Will Hunting as the dark horse that could have a shot. I Loved As Good As It Gets, but it didn't have a chance. And Full Monty was that 5th nominee that really never needs to be there. They always have to have 5. And usually the 5th film takes out great movies that really should be nominated instead. Like, I would have gladly nominated Boogie Nights or The Sweet Hereafter or The Ice Storm rather than nominate The Full Monty. That was just really silly. Same thing in 1994, which was one of the best years for cinema. The nominees were Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction were the big ones. And then dark horse candidate was Shawshank, which, believe it or not, Shawshank was not... did well critically, but it wasn't really a big success until home video. Quiz Show had no chance. It's a great movie, don't get me wrong, but didn't have a chance. And Four Weddings and a Funeral, again, is the movie that didn't really need to be there. You should have nominated Ed Wood, the Tim Burton film. But we're going to go through the nominees. These are the ones I didn't see. I didn't see Train Dreams, didn't see Hamnet, didn't see The Secret Agent, or Sentimental Value. I have seen One Battle After Another, Big Horns Down. I really dislike this film. Marty Supreme is horns up marginally. The performances are great. Some of the twists and turns the movie makes are very interesting. I love the high energy, but the story, to me, overall, just didn't really knock me out. F1 was a good movie, a good solid movie with Brad Pitt as a race car driver, but at the end of the day, it's nothing new, nothing we haven't seen before. Some of the shots, some of the racing sequences are great, but it's a racing movie at the end of the day. Then there's Begonia, which I liked, but it's a very strange, trippy movie. I don't know what most people will think of it. I saw it as a big throwback to like those 1970s weird like horror thrillers. And I felt like it worked on that level for me. But again, I don't see it being up for Best Picture award. That's just going a little much. Sinners is the big talk of the town this year. And I don't consider it just a remake of Dusk Till Dawn, even though it's very heavily inspired by From Dusk Till Dawn and other horror movies of the 90s. And that's part of the problem, is that it's too much of an influence from 90s horror, where you needed to go back to the 70s and like early 80s and do something just a little different with it. I did like Sinners, and I liked it a lot more the second time. The first time I saw it, I was like, nah. But the second time, I did like it a lot more, but I still feel like there's just not enough there. Where it really shines is the direction. The direction by Ryan Coogler is superb, and I would not be surprised if he walks away with Best Director, because that was very, very impressive. And the performances were good. Of course, Haley Steinfeld as always. Michael B. Jordan is amazing, as always. But again, like, I just felt like they needed to be more. Now, of course, my vote would be Frankenstein. But it's going to be between One Battle After Another, Marty Supreme, which One Battle After Another boggles my mind why so many critics and people think it's great. I just didn't. And I know Paul Thomas Anderson is a great filmmaker. His early films are great. His first 3 are amazing. I didn't see Punch Drunk Love. I love There Will Be Blood, even though it doesn't make any sense. Nobody can ever really tell me what the story of that movie is. It just doesn't seem to make any sense. But it's not really a movie about that. It's more about the visuals, the music, and the performances than story. So my take is I have a feeling that one battle after another is going to lose. And I even think Marty Supreme is going to lose, although Timothy Chalamet will get Best Actor. I think they're going to give Best Picture to Sinners. I think it's just one of those things where it just, the momentum of that movie, I think that that movie stuck with voters more than the other ones. But at the same time, if they give Sinners the award, that means they'd have to give Best Picture to a horror film. Now, will Hollywood do that? Because they wouldn't give it to Get Out. And Get Out, I thought, was a really good movie until the ending. The ending had a cheesy Hollywood happy ending, which was really stupid. I felt like that movie should have had a darker, forgive the pun, a darker ending, a really vicious thing where like the guy dies and the girl gets away with it, and then she does it again and again. And you could have made a whole series out of Get Out. Get Out could have been a good series of movies, and she could have been the next Jigsaw. But instead, they wanted to wimp out and give it a Hollywood ending. Whatever. All right. Now we're going to talk about my favorites of the year. I saw 42 movies this year, 36 new, including one that isn't quite new, but a new version of it. My scale is from 1 to 5 stars, with the rare exception of 2.5. It's very rare. This is a film that's pretty good, has potential, just isn't enough. And basically, how I take it is 5 stars means the movie's a classic. Like, it's a movie I really want to see again, and I would buy it on Blu ray or 4K. And it's a movie that I really love. 4 stars is a really good, really solid, entertaining movie that I'd like to watch again. 3 stars is the movie was good. It didn't hurt to get through it, but I'm not in a big rush to see it again. 2 stars is not good, and 1 star is just horrible. That's basically how I rate movies. I don't really do half stars that much, very rarely. Documentaries: Pee Wee himself, Billy Joel and So It Goes, and John Candy, I Like Me. Those are the 3 documentaries I saw, and the winner is Billy Joel and So It Goes. The John Candy documentary was great, but I just feel like I'm more into music. I'm more interested in stuff about music and things like that. That's why the Billy Joel documentary really won me over. Um, I didn't really see much TV this year. Cobra Kai started kind of last year, the other previous year. So you can't really judge that as a TV show from 2025, although Cobra Kai was great and it ended great. And I'm glad that they stuck the landing. I have not seen the new Stranger Things season. I'm not that interested in season 5. To me, the show kind of lost me after season 2. I love season 1 and 2. After that, season 3 I didn't like. Season 4 was better, but I'm still not really enthusiastic about season 5, especially since the episodes are so long and each one is like a movie, and it's like, you know, I'll get to it when I get to it. But the TV show that really impressed me this year was Andor season 2, which I think the Star Wars fans are going a little too crazy. It's good sci-fi. I don't know if it's good Star Wars because it doesn't really feel like Star Wars. It feels too political, too science fiction-y to really be Star Wars, but I do like it. I saw a couple of reissues this year thanks to Flashback Cinema and Fathom Events. The Notebook, The Princess Bride, Revenge of the Sith, This Is Spinal Tap, The Muppet Movie, and Back to the Future. And of course, my favorite re-release of the year was seeing The Muppet Movie at Flashback Cinema, which was pretty cool because the host of Flashback Cinema, John Hersker, happened to be there that Sunday. And it was great to meet him and say thank you so much for all you do. And this is a great way to preserve classic movies. And I'm definitely going. There's a few good ones coming up, like La La Land and Jurassic Park, and a few others that I want to try and catch this year. 2 of these movies were directed by Rob Reiner, The Princess Bride and This Is Spinal Tap. What happened to Rob Reiner? This is a guy that I've been a little critical of his films after A Few Good Men. His movies kind of had a lot of ups and downs. But this is a guy that I greatly respect. I think he's the best filmmaker of the 80s, and the 80s had some great films. But if you look at that little body of work that he did just in the 80s, Spinal Tap, Sure Thing, which I saw recently and I did like. It's not a major hit from him, but I did like The Sure Thing. But he did The Princess Bride, Stand By Me, When Harry Met Sally. I mean, he's a great director, and these are great films. And it is very heartbreaking. And I felt bad too because I didn't even like his recent movie. I didn't care for Spinal Tap 2. There's a part of me that's, in a morbid way, like, I'm kind of glad that the last things he did was that film and the upcoming Spinal Tap concert film, which I really, really want to see. But I wasn't too thrilled with the movie. I didn't hate it. I didn't have any grudge against it or anything. It just didn't seem to work for me. But you can't really say anything bad about Rob Reiner because those movies he did at that first run of movies, and then A Few Good Men and Misery, which is a great adaptation of Stephen King. Probably two of the best ones were directed by him. He also founded Castle Rock Entertainment. If it wasn't for Castle Rock Entertainment, The Shawshank Redemption would never have happened. So, and probably not The Green Mile either, because The Shawshank Redemption is what made Frank Darabont known as a filmmaker. And it led to The Green Mile and a few others. And, it's just, what happened to him was just such a terrible tragedy. And I just don't even know how to describe it. I didn't even do, what I usually do is when we lose a director, I watch my favorite movie by them. And then I go on Amazon or I'll buy or rent a movie from them that I haven't seen. And I'm going to probably make that video at some point, but right now it's just too upsetting and too sad. It's going to be a little while before I could watch a Rob Reiner movie because I'm just a little bit really upset and disturbed by what happened. And, again, I used to follow him on Twitter and I stopped because I just didn't want to see any more political posts, not just from him, from anybody. I used to follow Jimmy Woods too. And I can't follow anybody anymore. Like everybody has to have these opinions and everybody's mad at each other and everything. And look, things are going on that are not good in this world, but we go to the movies to escape. And hopefully filmmakers will go on Twitter and talk about their art and what they do. Instead, these award shows are more platforms for people to talk about what they think about the political situation. And, I'd rather have nothing to do with it. I'd rather not hear about any of it. If you want to vote in November, vote. That's how you voice your opinion. Other than that, I don't want to hear it from anybody. Even if I agree, I don't want to hear it. And I had to unfollow him, on Twitter because some of the things were getting a little bit rough. But, God rest his soul. It was terrible what happened to him and his wife, and it's just heartbreaking. His dad just passed a couple of years ago, and Carl Reiner is a brilliant man that I really respect. So to lose both of them in such close proximity is just like unthinkable, And I feel bad because I feel like he still had something. He still has his talent. He still has his brain. And I feel like there was one more movie that was as good as the classic era of Reiner in the 80s and early 90s. But I'm looking forward to that Spinal Tap concert film. If the studios can release it already, I really, really want to see it. So honorable mentions for 2025. These are movies that were good or really good, but just didn't quite make the top 10. And again, Sinners is on there. The Naked Gun remake I thought was very entertaining. Not trying to be the original. It's its own thing. And it was very funny. There was some major laughs in this movie. Liam Neeson was brilliant comic actor. Just add that to his skill set. And it was very nice to see Pamela Anderson. And every man of my generation, or almost every man of my generation, will always have a thing for Pamela Anderson, because we loved her since we were kids. And it's just great to see her in something. It's great to see her again. And I love that she doesn't have to go out of her way to try and make herself up like she's still 30. She's gotten older, but she looks great. She's a very classy lady, and it's good to see her in a movie, and I want to see her in more movies. She's also surprisingly very funny, too. All right, Together. This is a movie. This is a great date movie if you want to break up with somebody, because you will be broken up with after this movie. It's entertaining. It's crazy. Again, if you think of the logistics of it, you'll be like, huh? But It's a lot of fun. I thought I got a kick out of it. Again, not for everybody. It's extremely violent and strange and disturbing. But I dug it. I dug it. You know, it was good. Weapons we talked about. Amy Madigan, man, she is so good in this. I mean, everybody's great in this movie. Julia Garner's great, and I'm telling you, as somebody who's worked in education, I think this movie is one of the best capturings of what it's like to be a teacher and care that much for your students, and also be neurotic, and also going to the liquor store right after work. I mean, you know, if you're a teacher, you've got to see this movie at least once. If you're in education, which I used to be, not anymore, because you know, tired of being a sub and there's no full-time work, so I went on to do other things. Predator Badlands. This is a really good movie, a really exciting movie, and the most amazing thing is we had one great Predator movie in 1987, and there hasn't been much since. And this year we got two really good Predator movies. It's weird. It's like last year, the other year we had a great Alien movie. Now we have this Alien TV series, which I've seen a bit of, but I have to finish it. But it's amazing to me that, wait, these properties are starting to work again because they haven't worked in 30 years. Or almost 40 years. Begonia we talked about, very weird. I liked it. Emma Stone is fantastic. Jesse Plemons. Let's talk about Jesse Plemons for a moment. This guy is great in this movie. And the other guy that plays his I believe it's his cousin. I can't remember the guy's name. I'm so sorry. All three of these leads were incredible in this movie. Definitely worth checking out. One that I liked is Eddington. Again, it's very weird. It's not for everybody, but I thought Eddington was very interesting. What I like about Ari Aster is this. I didn't see Midsummer, but I've seen Hereditary, which is a brilliant movie, which I doubt I'll watch again because it's so unsettling. He does it again in this movie. Like, the thing that's interesting about Eddington is you're like, wait, this is a guy that makes horror movies. What is he doing this political thriller, and what is this thing? But he does it. He introduces the horror. The tension builds so slowly. And I'm like, is this the same guy who did Hereditary? Because this is more like a thriller, political thing. And then kaboom. This movie just explodes. At one point, there's a shooting of two characters, not to give much away. And I'm like, huh? There he is. There's Ari. He knows what he's doing. And it's a very interesting movie. It's all about... See, to me, I liked it much more than One Battle After Another because I thought this was the perfect film about American paranoia. And it was set during COVID when everybody was panicking about he doesn't have a mask and she doesn't have a mask and everything like that. And we almost forget sometimes how hysterical and crazy America got in that period. But definitely worth seeing. Okay, now, drum roll. The 10 films that really stood out among the rest for me. And again, lists are absolute. They're relative. They're not absolute. So I can say, oh, this is my favorite movie of the year. And then like 5 years later, I'll watch it again. I'm like, it's okay. Whatever. So this is just what I'm thinking at this time and place. And that's the thing about the Oscars, folks, is that a lot of times like, oh, God, how could they give Best Picture to Ordinary People over Raging Bull? Well, at the time, in 1980, they liked Ordinary People more than Raging Bull, the voters. And then 5-6 years later, they must be like, oh, man, really? You know, we should have given it to Raging Bull, of course. And Scorsese should have had an Oscar. Same thing with Goodfellas and several other Scorsese movies. But for the time being, this is where they are mentally. This is where their head state is, and this is what they're feeling. So again, stars and lists and thumbs up and thumbs down and horns up and horns down, it's all relative because you can change your mind one way or another. Or you could look back 10 years later and say, I got it right. That happens sometimes. But my number 10 is Fantastic Four. And a lot of people say, well, Fantastic Four, man, it's all right, you know. Yeah, but you know what it is? I like what this movie did visually. I like that it felt like a throwback to the early Marvel universe before Disney. The days of like Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, the Ang Lee Hulk, when they were experimenting. And some experiments worked out, like the X-Men or Spider-Man. Then other experiments didn't work out. But visually, a lot of Jack Kirby, not Frank Kirby. I'm thinking of Frank Miller. But a lot of that visual style is very interesting to me. I think Pedro Pascal was not cast right, but I think he does a good job with what he has to work with. And I think he does it pretty good. And the rest of the cast, Vanessa Kirby is great. And the other guys, yeah, again, I don't know if they're the perfect casting, but they're good actors and they made it work. And that's all that really matters in the end, if it works or not. Number 9 is Black Bag. This is a great spy espionage thriller from Steven Soderbergh, who once again reminds us that, yeah, he's still making some great ones. You know, he could still do it. The cast is good. Michael Fassbender is wonderful, and Kate Blanchett, and, you know, it's a really good movie. It's on Amazon Prime. That's how I discovered it. I didn't even know about this movie because it kind of came and went in theaters, because I think they released it in the summer, which was not good. They did the same thing with Life of Chuck, which, by the way, Life of Chuck was pretty good. I was not crazy about it, but I thought it was a good movie. Number 8 is Superman. I really like this new Superman. I really dug it. It's very, like I said, one of the biggest problems with movies today is they don't have heart and they don't have sincerity. This movie has lots of heart, lots of sincerity, and it works. It's a really good movie. David Cornsweet, he's a great Superman. Lois is great. I mean, they got a great cast in this movie. Nicholas Hoult is great as Lex Luthor. I just really enjoyed this movie. I like the music. I like the effects. It just really worked for me. I like the supporting characters, too. I thought that was kind of funny, you know. Number 7 is the best Stephen King adaptation of the year, The Long Walk. There's been about 4 King adaptations this year, and this is definitely my favorite. The pacing of the movie, the way that it plays itself out, Mark Hamill as the villain, was very interesting. I really like that this movie took some real chances. And again, this era that we're living in, there's a lot of stuff about paranoia. There's a lot of stuff about, you know, a lot of political thrillers and a lot of, you know, movies that make a social point. And I think that movies within a genre, whether it be horror or dystopian future, they get their point across better than movies that take place in the real world, like one battle after another, you know, in my opinion. Usually genre films or genre filmmakers do it a lot better. They handle that a lot better. Number 6, Sisu, The Road to Revenge. I love this movie. It's a great sequel to one of my most unexpected and favorite films, Sisu, that came out a couple of years ago. Instead of killing Nazis in this movie, Sisu, the guy, is going after the communists. And the things that they do in this movie, very creative ways of killing bad guys. And I just thought it was, you know, very much of the Tarantino mold. But I think they do a good job with it. And I think that, you know, I could watch Inglourious Basterds and watch these 2 Sisu movies back to back. And I don't know. Again, it's not maybe historically accurate, but it's hell of a lot of fun, you know. And number 5, this is again one of the best films of the year, is Predator, Killer of Killers. This is an animated film that's on Hulu, and it might be the best Predator movie. It's definitely the best one since the original, but it might be my favorite out of all of them. And stay for the very end credits, because I didn't do that. And they're like, oh, what did you think of this? And I'm like, what? If you watch it, stay till the very end. It's very entertaining, a lot of fun, just a brilliant concept. The idea of the Predator hunting across time and actually taking different warriors from different time periods and having them square off, that was brilliant. It was really exciting, a really good movie. Not for kids. It's animated, but it's not a kids movie. Speaking of kids movies, number 4 on my list is Paddington in Peru. This is a great movie, a great entry to the Paddington series. The first 2 Paddington movies are great. They're a little better than this one, but this one's still great. It's still a great movie in that group. And definitely worth seeing. If you have kids, you got to show them the Paddington movies, because they're much more sophisticated and interesting than any kids' movies being made in America right now. Number 3, this is not going to be on anybody's top 10 list, but my 3rd favorite film of the year was Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. This movie is the culmination of a 30-year franchise that started way back in 1996, and I really liked this movie a lot. I loved it. It was maybe not a perfect end to the series, but it's a good, solid entry to the series. And this has been a series that definitely has gotten better as it has gone along, especially starting with film 3. And then film 4 was better. Film 5, I believe that probably film 6, The Fallout, is probably the best one. But this is a great entry and a lot of excitement. And a lot of people kind of just didn't like this movie. They kind of spit on this one a little bit. And I'm like, why? It's really good. It's really entertaining. And I think they did a great job with it. Number 2 is Guillermo del Toro's brilliant Frankenstein, the best new movie of the year. Um, I've seen a lot of versions of Frankenstein. The Hammer versions, the original Universal, will always have a special place in my heart. But this is probably the best version of Frankenstein I've ever seen. It is amazing. Just the design of it, the acting, the performances. They took a few liberties here and there, just like Superman took a few liberties here and there, but it works. They found a way to make it work, and it's really good. And now, oh, the movie behind me, by the way, is The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. I usually try to put a silent film on in the background. If you haven't seen it, it's great. It's one of the first horror movies. Huge influence on Tim Burton. Okay, number 1. This is my favorite movie of 2025. And it's kind of a cheat because you're allowed one cheat on these lists. Like one year I had Rocky IV director's cut, or a reissue that was a little different, or a different version. And I will have to say that my favorite film of last year, my favorite experience in a movie theater, was going to see Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair. This was staggering to see this movie presented this way. It looked great. It sounded great. It had an intermission, thank goodness. But it was just such an amazing experience. And the thing that's funny is I've seen Kill Bill 1 and 2 back to back, because I've had the DVDs for many years, and there's been a couple of times in the last 20, 25 years that I've watched these two movies back to back. And I said, over the last 20 years, I've watched them back to back, 1 and 2 together. Then I, was able to get The Whole Bloody Affair, thanks Japan. And I watched that version, and I loved that, but it just didn't quite work. But for some reason, in seeing on the big screen, seeing it all together, I think it's different than when you just watch a DVD. And if it's a movie you've seen a bunch of times, you're basically watching it. You're half on your phone, half watching the movie. You've seen it so many times, you're not really paying attention to every little thing. But when you go see this in the theater, you have no choice. You're completely under the film's spell. And the new sequence is interesting. It's, it didn't really need to be there, but I'm glad it's there. And I think overall, it's really probably Tarantino's best movie when you see it all together as one piece. I do wish they still had the Klingon proverb in the beginning. That was cut. They instead did the tribute to that famous filmmaker that passed away back in the 2000s. But still, it's amazing, and I just can't wait to watch it on digital or 4K when it eventually comes out. So that's my list for the best films of 2025. I'm not going into what movies I didn't like or the bad movies or anything like that. I figure it's better just not even to talk about them than give them any time. But I'm working on a new book, and it's coming along. I'm a little busy with the 2 jobs, but I'm working on this book, and hopefully it'll be out in the next couple of years. But in the meantime, if you want to read my current book, Lost on a Wave, you can check it out. It's on Amazon. Just hold it a little closer. So please support. And I'll see you guys soon, and hopefully there's more movies to talk about. Signing off.